Okay, so now let's come to Russia-Ukraine. What is likely possible in the context of this G20 meeting? And I want to go across to Alexander Bratersky to give us a sense of the thinking in Moscow. Because for the most part, Russia was a pariah state in the G20 deliberations in Indonesia. India does share a long-standing relationship with Russia, and that's led to some unpleasantness or unhappiness in the Western world. But for Russian leaders, much more welcome in India than they are in Europe at the moment, for sure. What do you think could potentially emerge from this G20 foreign affairs meeting from the perspective of Moscow?
Well, I'm not expecting anything, for, let's say, for the Ukrainian conflict to sort of like, not the end, of course, but sort of like any real negotiations, or maybe some signals, could be sent, but not really big signals. The situation is very difficult. I mean, the Chinese peaceful plan was actually very welcomed in Russia, but unfortunately or fortunately, this plan is actually not concrete, but that's very Chinese way of saying. At least President Zelensky says something positive about this plan on some parts of the plan, but everybody wants to pick some cherries from this plan. However, Russia, yes, as you have mentioned, have good relationship with both countries, with China, which is a authoritarian state, and India, which is a democratic state, but both are partners. Both countries now have difficulties over its own problems, so it's very difficult for India and China to push Russia, to kind of like jointly to push Russia into some kind of a Ukrainian solution, although I understand both countries want to end this conflict. And as the resolution was mentioned, the wording in the resolution, of course, is not acceptable by President Putin or any of his entourage in the Kremlin, because, well, of course, people could see it as an aggression, and it's clear it is an aggression against the sovereign state. However, of course, nobody in the Kremlin would buy this, and nobody's going to change the language either. So it's very difficult now to find anything, any possibility, because it looks like even Putin's message to the world and his State of the Union address that he addressed recently does not contain something really radical. I mean, except anti-Western rhetoric, which is usual. So it looks like he's sort of saying, like, let's start doing something over this. Yes, I have made this, but let's do something, but nobody's listening to, because, I mean, the West and the United States, of course, doing the same things as they were doing. I mean, Russians actually put themselves in the situation, so let's supply weapons. Let's do what we have done in Afghanistan with the Soviets years ago.
Day before, late at night, I was speaking to one of the senior most ministers in the Modi government, and what he said with great confidence is that you wait and watch. Over the next few months, Prime Minister Modi will help engineer some kind of a truce between Russia and Ukraine. That will be the highlight of India's G20 presidency. Sushant Sareen, now, is that in any realistic sense within the realm of... one thing is what the BJP would like to see happen. The other is realpolitik and how it plays out. Nations have a mind of their own. They put their self-interest first. They're not particularly worried about the elections next year or about the fact that this is India's big year as the president of the G20. Is it at all possible that some kind of a solution be found while India is still president of the G20?
It's very possible.
Even if a solution is found, I would be very pleasantly surprised if it was a solution which was, promoted by India. At best, what India can do is try and bring the two sides together, but I don't think we should be in the business of even trying to mediate, because we'll get our fingers burned in this process. And I'm not even sure if the two parties actually are interested in a kind of a peace move right now. They all want peace, but at their own terms. Now, the Western bloc, which is backing Ukraine, I think feels that they've got Russia where they want it, and they will keep pressing Russia and try and, really take its power down to a point where it ceases to be a threat. And the Russians on the other side are not willing to give up because it's a prestige issue for them as well. So I think we are in a deadlock situation, and in this particular G20, it'll be very surprising if we can come out with a communique, because I see the deadlock prevailing out here. If it happened at the time of the finance ministers meet, then and where the geopolitical issues could have taken a bit of a back seat,